Building energy codes, 90.1 ASHRAE standard. The IECC, which you've all got a book. I think you've all got a copy of that. And then we see that some states adopt their own version and make it look just like the IECC. That's Virginia's state energy conservation code. State building energy codes in accordance with NECPA as amended by EPACT. Remember, there's lots of alphabet soup in this. There's the EEI, there's ASHRAE, there's USGBC, AIA, there's the EIEIO, that's the Farmers Union. They're tough to deal with. Tough negotiators. But it's all alphabet soup in many respects. But most states use the ASHRAE 90.1 for commercial and the IECC as the basis for residential. Code adoption, commercial. Well, what is that telling us, Mark? Well, the states that are in white, there are 10 of them, are states that don't have a state-adopted standard. And this is from the ICC website. Okay, now, I do understand one of the reasons is this is a home rule state. But guess what? There are 29 home rule states. And California is a home rule state, too. What does home rule mean? That's ultimately a political mechanism by which, from my understanding, which you can prove me wrong if you wish, but from my understanding, it's the state allows the local jurisdictions to pass certain laws, ultimately. That's how I understand it. And in this case, Arizona does not have a state energy code. For better, for worse, it's the way it is. And 10 other states, or 9 other states are that way, because 9 plus 1 is 10, right? There we go. So 9 others. But there are 29 home rule states, including California, which later on we'll see what California's been able to do from a building energy conservation standpoint. Adoption activity commercial. This slide shows you states that are expected to have commercial energy codes that meet or exceed the 90.1 2007 or the IECC 2009 by the end of 2015. And again, it's about 10 or so states that won't. And there is overlap with the last slide. Here's residential. It's again about 10. It's 10 that don't have statewide goals. And again, here's the same situation. So very similar maps. We see them change occasionally, but I don't know. Some people who are more focused on codes because they've got much more wisdom than I, who are in this room, may know certain things that are going on, and maybe they'll share that with you as the day goes along. But yeah, home rule state, no mandatory statewide commercial energy code. However, many counties and cities have adopted energy efficiency code, typically the IECC 2006 version. And this slide's a little old, but 107 municipalities in Arizona, I don't think that's changed in the past year. We have 4 have adopted the IECC 2009, 48 have adopted some level of a code, and it says only 1 ICC instructor in Arizona. Well, that's no longer true. Now there are at least 20. So the one thing that seems to be growing is the fact that we have very bright people, several of them in this room. You're going to be hearing from them today. In fact, 3 ICC trainers will be here today. So that's tremendous. You have great resources here. You're going to learn a lot. These are some of the states. Pick out your favorites. It's a self-reporting mechanism at the ICC, so I don't know why, but 7 chose not to let the ICC know for whatever reason. Maybe they were busy enforcing the code. I don't know. But that's what it is. Now, there are 3 in the state that have chosen to adopt the International Green Construction Code. We'll talk a bit more about that later. But that's Kayenta Township and Phoenix and Scottsdale. And there's only 10 states in the nation where any municipalities have adopted the IGCC, the International Green Construction Code. Pretty fascinating. But we'll learn more about that. Energy code adoption. It can occur at multiple levels, ultimately state level or local jurisdiction, county, city, township. And there are a variety, a plethora of knowledgeable people who are engaged in the code-making enterprise. The State Energy Office, committees of very often of very passionate community members, political folks, mayors and city councils who can make these things happen, local building officials who have some serious input as to what the market can bear. Where should the wall be? Okay? It's all critical, and the synergy that's required amongst those various audiences and participants in the enterprise, it's critical. Otherwise, you end up with a code that's either too easy or it's too hard. That's a problem. Now, I often have had engagements with groups of community groups that are leading the charge in their own cities for establishing codes or evaluating codes. And it's interesting how you find different people with different levels of passion. I remember one 2-day period a few years ago where I went and met with one group of individuals, and they were more interested in what was for lunch than, being interested in the energy code. And that's the way it goes. I'm still there, and I'm going to talk, and we're going to jump into it and try to move things along. The next group I went to see was probably around 7:30 in the evening. There were about 8 people there. They were all volunteers. They were meeting in a city municipal building in a warm conference room, and they're sitting there with stacks of manuals and books. These people were serious. I mean, I was so impressed. It's like, so you see the variance of passion. And when you get these groups of people together who interact and who have some love and interest and some level of passion for this, it's amazing what you can do. So we see this enterprise, this social, political, economic enterprise go forward. It undergoes a public review process. We determine results are incorporated into the proposal. Approving authority reviews it and approves it. And maybe after it's filed or approved, then it becomes law. Becomes the code. That's the process.